Good morning to you all. I want to say what a great privilege it is to be in the presence of two such wonderful writers and all of you who are so passionate about literature and books. I'm not sure who there's left for me to vamp for, but I'm willing and able, but probably not anywhere near as skilled and talented as the previous speakers. I realized when I was mulling over what I might share with you today that I should probably begin with a very elementary point, why I named my autobiography Leap of Faith. The fact is that faith in God, in one's fellow man, in spiritual values and principles, in one's own ability and duty or responsibility to try to make a positive difference in the larger world is a central theme of this book. And I should add that faith has come into play countless times as my laptop processed thousands of words and pages and countless drafts over the 2.5 years that I've been working on the project. Miramax also took a leap of faith in graciously accepting that the book I wanted to write and felt I should write required longer than the year that they had originally envisioned. Not as long as the book that, to my mind, set the standard for contemporary autobiography, Kay Graham's book, which she told me she spent 7 years on. But nonetheless, they have been gracious and patient, and we are all still living on faith. Throughout my life, and most significantly from the moment I decided to marry King Hussein, I was a 26-year-old American at the time and had no idea what was in store for me as Queen of Jordan. But I've faced difficult decisions and challenges with leaps of faith forward to embrace the unknown. In return, I have been richly rewarded. However, it is not to say that there have not been terrible difficulties along the way. There are 19 chapters in my book, and I do not believe there is one chapter in which there's not some conflict, some dire or pressing issue to be resolved. But in those 19 chapters, there's also a great deal of happiness and joy. I write about the blossoming of love, the birth of my first child, the first glimmers of progress towards peace in the Middle East, and the hopeful, even ecstatic periods of remission during cancer treatment. My husband, King Hussein, was a rare individual, a noble and a great man, and a tireless champion of peace in the Middle East. I very much want this book to honor his memory and to give a more complete and accurate view of his life as a world leader, to explain more fully, some cases, again, more realistically, the events that shaped his life as a leader and a statesman. It will also benefit the King Hussein Foundation, which we established after his death to give enduring life to his humanitarian vision and legacy through peace-building efforts in the Middle East and beyond. Our marriage was a partnership based in large part on shared goals and dreams. I will not deny that we were both tested and disappointed by the many setbacks in striving for peace in our region and a better, more hopeful future for our people and all people in the region. But we, and in particular my husband, who set the example and inspired so many of us, never gave up on that dream of peace for our region. I also hope that this book will contribute to countering the many misconceptions in the West about Islam and the Arab world in general, especially in the months since that singular tragedy on September 11th. Islam, for a long time, and continues to be too often cast as an intolerant, backward, and fanatical religion. This is not the Islam that I know and wholeheartedly embraced just before my marriage. Part of my mission is to portray the Muslim faith as I understand it, a religion that stresses universal values of tolerance, equality, justice, charity, social responsibility, accountability towards our one God, profound faith in His will, and a healthy and disciplined lifestyle that eschews any extremes of any kind. My own faith in the will of God helped me through some very, very difficult times, especially the months when my husband was gravely ill, and at the time of his death and afterwards. My book delves significantly into how I tried to come to terms with his illness, our loss, and grief. I've told very little of my story before. For better or worse, during our marriage, I was reluctant to speak to the media, to the press in particular, about specific issues, about anything but specific issues or challenges that were facing our country and the region. Early on, I sensed that reporters preferred to portray me in the shallow, stereotypical, and unreal fairy tale terms, imagine, given our life in the Middle East. Or they wrote with an overly political bias or slant. Also, for the past 25 years, I've never had the time to look back and reflect on the past, on how the pieces of my life fit together. I'm not certain I even do now. I suppose every writer thinks that at this stage in the process. So there are many recollections about my honeymoon, about early years in Jordan, about what it was like to suddenly find myself in a royal court that I've never shared with the reading public before. I write about some thorny subjects as well. It was not easy being the stepmother to 8 children, nor was it easy to accept the sudden loss of privacy I felt when I became queen. There is also a chapter that is devoted to my childhood and adolescence and some of my family history. One of my favorite family stories tells the story of my great-uncle, Camille Halaby's pioneering adventure from Brooklyn, New York, to settle in Medellin, Colombia, yet another tragically troubled part of our world, and another that has a claim on my heart. But that is another book, and who knows, perhaps another opportunity to address you here at Book Expo. Thank you very much.